Hello my fellow riders, this is Chris from Riding Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about should you buy a used bike or a new one. As you could probably hear, I still have this blasted cold and it's very annoying, but life goes on and we have to carry on. So due to the time of the year there is no motorbike sale, so I don't have anything to test ride. So we're going to start doing some vlogs. Hopefully you enjoy them and hopefully you find them a little bit interesting. So here we go. Best case scenario in buying a used bike would be somebody that has bought a bike that they don't like riding. For many different reasons. There's a lot of bikes out there that people have done 200-300 miles on and they might just not like riding motorbikes. So in that case, Mr. Taxman has already taken his chunk out of it and they have taken the brunt of that chunk, so you will be getting it quite considerably cheaper than you would from a dealer. The only issue with this is majority of Chinese motorcycle warranties are not transferable, so you won't have that backup. But most of these bikes, parts are cheap, labour's cheap, and if you look after them and do the servicing when they're supposed to be, they don't generally break. Sometimes you may have a little bit of a wiring issue, but that can be easily remedied. So the best case scenario for a brand new bike is probably a Lexham Moto. The ZSBs are fairly cheap, they're about £1,500 on the road. Now with all of Lexham Motos now, they come with 2 years warranty and 1 year's roadside assistance, so that you don't have to worry about. The problem is Mr. Taxman obviously takes his £350-400. As soon as you push that bike out the door, that is gone and you can't get it back. Also, when it does come to a garage, hopefully the garage is respectable and they have done a proper PDI check and test ride on your bike, so when you get it, if there is any problems, take it straight back there and they have to fix it by law. The other thing with a brand new bike is even if you don't go for a Lexham Moto, they do legally have to come with 1 year's warranty, so you have all that come back if you need it. And there are many different agencies out there that are there to protect your rights when it comes to motor vehicles, so that if you do think that your bike isn't what it's supposed to be or how it is, you can go to them and they will help you remedy the situation. So there's a couple of things to think about when you're considering a used bike. The first thing is the bike going to last 5 minutes or is it going to last 10,000 miles? Majority of used bikes, especially the 50cc market, the bikes have been caned a lot. So something to look out for when you're buying one is try and find one with the restrictor still in. So if the bike does 45 miles an hour, you know that somebody has been wringing the neck out of that bike, and potentially they could be selling it due to the fact that it's not going to work for much longer, and there's a couple of signs that you can tell that a bike isn't going to last for much longer. Things like if you check the oil and it is completely black and it's got like a burning smell to it, then that would be a walk away job, don't bother. Generally the outside of a bike is a good indicator of what the inside of the bike is like. So if all the panels are cracked and you can tell that the bike has been dropped several times, unless you're getting it for a very cheap price, then I wouldn't bother. The thing is with a new bike is you have a lot of ways to come back to whoever you bought it off if there is a problem. With a second-hand bike you don't have that protection, so they can pretty much sell you whatever. As long as they put sold as seen, there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. You can do about it. Also, something that you want to consider is when you buy a bike off of eBay, try and always pay through PayPal, because PayPal has extra protections on them so that if the bike isn't what they said, then you can go back and PayPal can draw their money back off of them. There's a couple of reasons why people buy second-hand bikes over brand new bikes. Number one, your mate selling a bike, you know the bike's history, why not? Have a go, I'm sure it'll be fine. The other reason majority of people think is the price. The problem is with say you can buy a £500 bike or you can buy a £1,500 bike. Now that is a big old difference for some people to take. Some people have lots of money, some people have nothing. So if you can afford a brand new bike, I would suggest you do so. If you can't, then try and find somebody that is a mechanic that can have a look. Externally there's a certain amount of things you can tell, but you can't tell everything from a single test ride around the block. So that would be something to consider. Also, main thing when you're buying a bike is look someone in the eye. You can usually get a lot of feel from what they're trying to do, whether they're genuine or not, by looking somebody in the eye. If they're shifty and they don't want to look at you, then don't bother. Even us, we buy a lot of bikes in every year and we might get burnt with 4 or 5 of them a year. You can check them, they can ride really nice for 20 minutes and then they can have a massive problem that will get rid of all the money out of the bike. And the problem with a second-hand bike is once you start changing one thing, it's never just one thing, it's always one thing, then the next, then the next, then the next, and then it just ends up costing you the same amount as a brand new bike.